Man, what a busy Saturday night it was. We had the Stadium Series between the Red Wings and the Blue Jackets, which ended in the Detroit Red Wings getting absolutely shafted thanks to this missed call late in the game that led directly to Justin Danforth's game-winning goal. Listen, I try not to complain about refs very often because mistakes are going to happen. Human error is a thing, but this was bad, and as if my heart wasn't already broken enough from the finish of the Stadium Series game later in the night, I then had to watch John Cena turn heel for the very first time in his career. 12-year-old me would be absolutely devastated by what happened last night, but 23-year-old me actually loved it. On top of all that, we had a huge trade between the Chicago Blackhawks and the Florida Panthers. There was also a few other trades that took place earlier in the day on Saturday. We talked about them in yesterday's video, so if you want to hear my thoughts on the Ryan Lindgren and Gustav Nyquist trades and you haven't yet, you can go check out the most recent video on the channel before this one. Let's break down this Seth Jones trade though. So the full details of the trade: the Florida Panthers have acquired Seth Jones along with a 2026 fourth-round draft pick from the Chicago Blackhawks. In exchange, Chicago is receiving a 2026 first-round draft pick and goaltender Spencer Knight. Chicago is also retaining $2.5 million of Seth Jones' contract for the next 5 seasons, so Seth Jones is on the books for the Florida Panthers at a cap hit of $7 million as opposed to $9.5 million. The 2026 first-round draft pick Chicago is receiving is also a conditional pick. The condition is the pick slides to a 2027 first rounder if Florida doesn't end up having their 2026 first rounder. So what that tells me is Florida probably plans on trading that pick at some point. They placed Matthew Tkachuk on the long-term injured reserve today. He is out for the rest of the regular season, so they have more than enough cap space to make another big move. First things first, let's talk about this trade from the Florida Panthers side of things. From what I've been seeing on social media, for the most part, the reaction to this trade seems to be pretty mixed. I actually don't hate this trade for the Florida Panthers whatsoever. Is there risk involved in trading for a 30-year-old defenseman in Seth Jones who is signed for the next 5 seasons? Of course, but Seth Jones at a cap hit of $7 million per season is a lot easier to digest than Seth Jones at a cap hit of $9.5 million per season, especially with the salary cap on the rise. I feel like oftentimes people make the mistake of thinking just because a player is on a bad contract, that automatically makes them a bad player. Is Seth Jones' contract great? No. Is Seth Jones a bad player? No. I actually think Florida is a really good fit for Seth Jones, a team that beyond Gustav Forsling and Aaron Ekblad needed some help on the back end. I can't imagine Florida plans on breaking up the Gustav Forsling and Aaron Ekblad pairing, so Seth Jones should slot in nicely on Florida's second pairing. He's somebody who can play on both special teams as well. I feel like Florida is probably going to give him an opportunity to quarterback the top power play unit. Although he has less points than Ekblad this season, I do think Seth Jones is a better offensive defenseman. Say what you want about his contract, but there's no doubt about it. This trade makes the Florida Panthers a much better team, and I also feel like there's a pretty damn good chance we're going to see a much better version of Seth Jones in Florida than the version we have seen over the last few seasons in Chicago. Based off of all the things Seth Jones had been saying in the weeks leading up to this trade, he's somebody who was obviously fed up with all the losing, and to be honest, he just looked completely checked out. It was time for a change. He should be rejuvenated and very excited about this opportunity. There's obviously going to be much more talent around him now in Florida, and although Seth Jones has proven that he can at least handle playing 24, 25 minutes a night, he's probably not going to have to do that in Florida, which I think should benefit him. The Forsling-Ekblad pairing should still get a lot of the tough matchup minutes at 5-on-5. So again, although there's definitely some risk involved here, and Florida gave up a pretty decent package to bring him in, I really like the fit. And Aaron Ekblad is a pending UFA, so I feel like the uncertainty surrounding him and his future with the Florida Panthers played a big part in Florida wanting to go out and acquire a right-shot defenseman with term. Shifting focus now and talking about this trade from the Chicago Blackhawks side of things, if you're a Blackhawks fan, I feel like you have to be pretty happy about this. It was time to move on. Obviously, retaining $2.5 million of Seth Jones' contract for the next 5 seasons isn't ideal, but the most important thing is you move on from a player who was clearly fed up and didn't want to be there anymore. Even with the salary retention, Chicago still gives themselves a lot more cap flexibility moving forward by making this trade. Not that they really needed it, but still. On top of that, you get an additional first-round draft pick, which means the Chicago Blackhawks now have 5 first-rounders in the next 3 NHL drafts, which definitely opens up a lot of possibilities for Chicago. Obviously, I think it's most likely they're going to use their own first-rounders to draft a prospect over the next few years. But if the Blackhawks want to get serious soon about putting a much more competitive team around Connor Bedard, they can easily go out and use some of these additional first-round draft picks they got from other teams as trade bait to try and go acquire some young, already established NHL talent. And the Blackhawks are also getting back a very interesting young player in Spencer Knight, who could very well end up being Chicago's goal goaltender for the future. Obviously, I'm not near as high on Spencer Knight now as I was when he was selected 13th overall by the Panthers back in 2019, and as a whole, his NHL numbers have been, I would say, average, but he's still only 23 years old. The potential is there. Goaltenders oftentimes take a lot longer to develop than skaters do. All in all, I think this is a very solid trade for both teams, especially the Blackhawks. I do wonder about Florida's goaltending situation beyond next season. They've now traded both Devin Levi and Spencer Knight, and Sergei Bobrovsky is 36 years old and will be a UFA at the end of next season. Still have a little bit longer before we have to worry about that though, so I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So that is going to wrap up this video, giving you guys my quick thoughts on the trade that sent Seth Jones from Chicago to Florida. As always, I want to know what you guys are thinking, especially if you're a fan of either the Panthers or the Blackhawks. Sound off down below in the comments. Let me know how you're feeling. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to leave it a like. It's the best way to let me know that you enjoyed, and it does help out a ton. And most importantly, if this is your first time checking out the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button, because we are going to be uploading trade breakdown videos just like this on all the major deals that take place between now and the deadline.